Power Girl has been relaunched with a new #1 as part of the Dawn of DC. This is a DC Comics initiative that is attempting a bit of a rebrand as of 2023. It's a very light one, but it's allowed some characters to have a bit of a fresh start, or in the case of others, go in a brand new direction. It's been a bit of a bumpy ride for Power Girl. Power Girl was erased from main continuity, only to be brought back in the background, and DC have decided to foreground her again, and it's been an interesting experience. And we've been tracking it here on the channel. Why? Because it's fun to talk about Power Girl. Power Girl began to gain more focus in the DC event Dark Crisis, and this continued on into Lazarus Planet. An event, though that term may be aggrandizing the storyline a bit, but it was marketed as such, so an event that saw Lazarus rain or resin descend upon the planet, and it gave some characters new powers. And it was very quickly brushed aside, and sometimes things come up and sometimes they don't. But it was this era that saw the beginning of Power Girl's new creative team, author Leah Williams and Marguerite Sauvage on art. Power Girl was given psychic abilities, the power to punch into mindscapes, which would later be redefined as astral punching, and her and Omen developed a psychic link and became best friends. Cuz Power Girl was also given a backup in Action Comics. In these issues, her and Omen would do psychic therapy sessions with a couple of members of the DC universe. They would vary between Power Girl literally punching trauma in the face, and they would also show her showcasing her new insecurities, which are very mileage may vary for people. While her past pre-crisis history was largely in play, so Earth 2, also member of the JSA, Earth 2 Superman, all of that stuff, she was now shown to be suffering from an intense feeling of imposter syndrome, and feelings surrounding displacement, particularly around Supergirl.
And you know how I know all that? Because I've only ever been the imperfect you. Call me Kara, beta version. That's not funny. Wasn't supposed to be.
So this Power Girl was being presented very differently from her past iterations, and while some embraced and enjoyed the changes, others missed the more confident, self-assured Power Girl. The one who, despite being a bit on their own side, owned and rocked her place. Which wasn't to say she never felt sad or displaced, but it just wasn't at the foreground. However, the changes to Power Girl weren't done. Not only had the power set changed, some of the attitude, but now also the name would change. She went from being Karen Starr to Paige, and her history of being a CEO and all of those things was summarily dismissed.
And don't call me Karen, it's not even my name. That was just a code name I used for an alter ego that no longer exists.
John gives her the idea for the name Paige because she's turning a new page on her life. We're also graced with this eerie, uncanny close-up panel of his mouth. We also get it being derived from Omen calling her Paige, which is dirt of PG, Power Girl. And as for the former Karen, she just rolls with it. So despite part of her struggle, as being defined in these backups, being to define herself, she allows her cousin, who she barely knows, and friend she just met to pick her name. And for those for whom the name change isn't a big deal, Power Girl #1 will not let you forget it. It's gonna bring it up and explain it. Which in all fairness, it has to, because she was Karen Starr for decades. But that's not all. Part of the issue is about her setting up and taking out this new identity of Dr. Paige Stetler. But it must be stated, some really don't care. And I feel this is just a molehill mountain kind of situation. However, for people who do care, they latched onto it for a few reasons. For one, it felt very dismissive of her past, and the second was why. While Karen Starr wasn't as iconic as, say, Clark Kent or Bruce Wayne, or even Diana Prince or Linda Danvers, it was still the character's name that she had gone by for decades. And a name change is a big thing. It can signify a person identifying as someone new. And so for some, this reinforced feelings they were already having that this Power Girl was a new character, which again was an idea that some embraced and others didn't. While others felt the shift was occurring because of the cultural connotations attached to the name Karen in certain circles, particularly in the online space, although it has bled outwards. Karen has become a bit of a phenomenon, and some feel that it's here to stay. What do you think? So for some, it was less the fact that her name changed and the why behind it and the implementation. To compound this, there's a very different feeling Power Girl, much closer to the classic running around in Jeff Johns' Justice Society book. So if you happen to be reading both, Whiplash City, when the other book, that's Justice Society, deigns to come out, that is. Now all of these backups in Action Comics led into a special issue, which we covered on this channel, which was Power Girl versus Johnny Sorrow, who she has a history with, but they didn't really go into it too much in that special. We covered that in depth, so if you missed that, you can go check it out. But as for how it pertains to issue 1, it really doesn't. You need none of it. It could have never happened for the amount of impact it had on this story, except maybe the Streaky the Cat bit, because everything else you need to know happened before in backups. The name change, her powers, etc. Now, while it's good to make the reader not feel intense FOMO for not having read anything, or feel like they can't jump in because everything's impenetrable, it should still feel like it benefits the reader a little bit. For example, one didn't have to read the trendy lead-up story to grasp Wonder Woman #1, but reading it gave the readers that little insight into who the narrator was, the Sovereign, and also also the lasso of lies. So while not essential, it was still rewarding. By contrast, time of recording, these two issues, the special and the first issue, may as well be unconnected. And since that's the case, let's dive into issue 1 with a sweet Gary Frank Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions cover. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's always a great day to talk about Power Girl. I'm excited. We open this with the Keep Earth Human League, Human Liberation Front, Blue Earth group. It's Blue Earth one. They're protesting an event. They're a group of humans who are wary of alien interference. It's been a big plot over in the Action Comics storyline in Dawn of DC. They're presented as a fringe extreme hate group, mutants go home type deal. And they've got bad chants that don't rhyme.
Humans first, aliens never.
I don't know why I did a female voice. They don't show any women in this group in this panel, but I felt like it. They're in the bag. Also, if your signs don't rhyme, we must decline. Power Girl, now going by Paige, is at a charity event being held on a yacht. A yacht party, it's bougie. This benefit is being presented by Steelworks and it's funded by the Daily Planet. So Steel, both John and Natasha have been in play over in Action Comics, and of course the Daily Planet is the Daily Planet. But what this shows is that this version of Power Girl is deeply entwined with the super family, to the point where lots of the elements of her secret identity were set up through them and they're bolstering it. Her and Omen are on board and Omen is undercover, just in case, because they know what universe they live in. But she still calls her Power Girl out loud where people could hear, which is only worth noting because they have a psychic link still. Power Girl. Kara Zor-El was just an infant when her parents sent her away in a sentient symbiote ship to save her from a doomed and dying Krypton. It was to be Kara's mission to look after her younger cousin Kal-El when both arrived safely at Earth 2. However, her journey took much longer than expected. She came into her own and worked with Superman until a cosmic calamity destroyed the planet, leaving her the sole survivor. Seeking refuge on Earth Prime and taking the name Paige, she fights alongside the super family as Power Girl in the never-ending battle against evil. From this panel, as one can see, the artist has changed. While Leah Williams is still writing, we now have Eduardo Pansica on art, with Julio Ferreira inking and Romulo Fajardo Jr., great name, on colors. Also, that little blurb detailing who she is, it has some bits in there that may irk some, particularly those who are already irked by the name change to Paige. Let's get into it. It's largely because of the phrasing that implies that she never was Karen Starr. It just glosses over it as a period, instead of perhaps saying something like, now going by Paige, which still allows the space for Karen to have existed. That instead of taking the name Paige right after recapping the history that would have had her being named Karen taking place, which is what people note. All of those things are still referenced, but then the name is just like, shh, don't talk about it. No Karens. For some, it's just jarring. And as I mentioned in a convo with a commenter, there is a way that it could come across as slightly manipulative, although that is most likely not the intention. Because if one takes pains to explain the whole Karen Starr history, it's complicated and one could come across as pedantic and hence be dismissed as overzealous or caring too much. So it could feel like an attempt to make people just stop talking about it. Or it could also just be that it's easier to phrase it that way than add a whole extra sentence saying, Karen, then Paige. Karen Paige. Daredevil time. However, if it is the former, I say never. I'll never forget Karen. I'll die on this tiny pointless hill. Hop off of my Billy Batson Captain Marvel hill over here. For what is fandom if not getting your back up over minutia? It's a lot of other things, but this part's fun too. I find it fun. Do all of you find things like this fun or annoying? It varies. The comic is going to keep talking about it, by the way. Omen's nicknames for me are all derivatives of the acronym PG. Power Girl became PG, which became Paige, which became Princess Paige, and most significantly Paige. Omen's nicknames for me also include Dingus. That's not very nice, Omen, who is also here bartending with no knowledge of how to make drinks. Plus, neither of us knows jack about mixing drinks, but at least I can read people's minds for what the ingredients are when they order something. Paff, paff. I'm patting my own hair now to see if the sound I would assign is paff. I'm sure a lot of people order drinks without actually knowing what's in them, but just because they think it's the drink they should be ordering, or they've heard it ordered before, or they had it before, but they don't actually know exactly what's in it, and most likely a lot of them don't know the amounts. This cruise is gonna get crazy if someone's just out here making drinks with random amounts of ingredients. But now it's time. Introducing to the public for the very first time, Dr. Paige Stetler. Lately, I've been feeling like a true member of the super family for the first time. It was actually John Kent who suggested the name Paige after hearing Omen's various nicknames for me. I liked it, so it stuck. And this became the starting point for the debut of my new human alter ego tonight. It took quite a bit of convincing for Superman to let me set this up, but this evening's event is to help legitimize my alter ego in a corner of the tech world I'm genuinely passionate about. Now, it is nice to see Power Girl back in this kind of position, heading something up, dealing with tech. These are areas she's been in before and been passionate about. However, the her needing approval from Superman angle, it could use a bit more anchoring in her history with the Superman from Earth too. Otherwise, it could come across a bit ungrounded and place her more in Supergirl territory, making her feel more like a derivative of Supergirl than she is, especially when the goal is to set them apart. But for a moment, she goes up there and gives a speech, and we get some of that confident Power Girl, confident Paige. Sustainability is a farce, and that's because every smartphone, electric car, and computer in the world is made using slave labor and the destruction of natural ecosystems. Look at these people grinning at this speech. They're like, yeah. This is actually a pretty good representation of how these events are. Really pointed speeches, people just partying and throwing money at causes without really thinking about them. The pointedness of this speech works in the environment presented. There is no true sustainability without repairing the supply chain. You cannot build a future upon rot. That is why I'm very proud to present to you tonight's event, a silent auction with donated items of great intergalactic importance and cultural significance, representing other tomorrows galaxies away that have successfully taken root. Donated from one single shady space smuggler, you mean? Omen's not just being snide. I hope Steelworks and the Fortress were able to really examine those and make sure there's nothing malicious in them or some way that they can be misappropriated by someone. Say someone goes to the auction at the behest of some villainous company like for Veronica Cale or Lex. These look like they could be reprogrammed for nefarious purposes. There are real concerns to address behind alien tech and an honest wariness that could arise from a planet where aliens can attack on the regular, and sometimes do, and also just the universe is constantly nearly ending. But the idea of incorporating alien tech when there's so much around is a cool one. It's a neat conflict to explore and something that makes sense, and definitely something people would be interested in and want to do, and it's already happened in the DC universe anyway, although it's usually a secret. Shh. This moment is nice. You get to see the classic, confident, charismatic PG. However, of course, this event cannot go well. That wouldn't be a first issue. She has a successful event and goes home. Power Girl is pulled away from an encounter with an Axel Gust, potentially a CIA agent, and also pulled away from something mysteriously alien and organic by an alien who's here for the tech. Another problem with auctioning off smuggled tech. Some people might want to come get it. That person is Amalak, who is not a new character, but has been redesigned for the dawn of DC. He's a Superman villain from both the pre- and post-Crisis era. He's been a space pirate with a hatred of Kryptonians and Superman in their expansionist colonialist period, which is a take on Krypton that floats in and out. We'll be discussing him as he's characterized in this issue. He's a devil-may-care, sexist rogue type villain, and it really lands and works. You can't advertise an event with this much implied wealth on the premises and not expect some nefarious intervention. Superman isn't going to be happy, but then again, what is he going to do? Put me in timeout? I like that both her dress and costume have a boob window. That's the real way someone's going to find out her secret identity. They're going to be like, wait, I know that window. If people can identify traced porn images from Greg Land's work, they're gonna figure out her boob window. I'm called Amalak, for those curious, and I'm here to liberate these auction items from the desperately ignorant clutches of you Homo sapiens. No sudden movements. Or else, well, hey, you save that kind of talk for where the Blue Earth group and hear it outside. Power Girl enters the fray and Amalak is thrilled to see that she's Kryptonian because he hates them, and now he can destroy one. How can you hurt me? Oh, sweetie, I have an arsenal of toys designed to destroy your kind. That, sweetie, is such a good implementation of casual sexism. The way it just rolls into the scene, rolls off her because you know it's something that she's encountered before. We've seen it multiple times, and just the type of character she is and how she looks, you know that she's going to encounter that kind of thing from some villains. It's written in a way to rankle, but also a way that seems genuine to this character and the way that he would speak. It's in sharp contrast to the last comic we reviewed, Wonder Woman #1, where the members of AXE, the Amazon Extraction Unit, were literally calling Wonder Woman girl. In this issue, Williams is able to convey the belittling condescension of these pet names without it feeling contrived, and it blends with the personality she's given this villain. It flows better as part of the story as a result. It just feels like Amalak is like that, and the point lays underneath it, and so the two blend together and give you something strong, rather than coming across as something one is meant to take note of as it came across in Wonder Woman. Just a quick compare and contrast, because these two issues came out so close together and they're trying to implement a similar technique. It is possible that maybe some of Williams's lived through experiences are coming through in this writing, although that's just speculation. Whether it is or not is benefiting this story. Look at him laughing like that. He's having so much fun. This guy, Amalak he called himself, is dangerous. I have to get him away from the civilians. How do we feel about the super family all wearing jackets like they're in some kind of bike gang? Now, Amalak has a very specific beef with Krypton that he's going to outline. Kryptonians are parasites, finding other races, other planets, and declaring them lesser by your standards and therefore deserving of your interference in their natural evolution. Amalak supports the Prime Directive. My world is dead because of you. I'm from a different Krypton, moron. That matters not.
Do you think your Krypton is any less guilty of crimes of colonialism than the one that destroyed my planet?
For some, this is going to be a bit of a jarring moment. It is very on the nose. But it's a direct callback to Amalek's past iterations and motivations. Regardless of how one takes this, Amalek is pretty cool. He has layers. He's a supremacist himself with his whole Homo sapien talk, but also hates that same train of Kryptonians. And here he is, interfering, trying to take tech, all of those things. There's a nice little hint of irony there. And that panel with the glint in his eye, it's very nice. Now, this fight between him and Power Girl is pretty good too. It's dynamic, she's being heroic, we're learning why he'll be a threat to her, and then suddenly that all stops. Omen breaks in with her psychic link and then just decimates the tension. She stops to ask Power Girl if she fed their pet cat Streaky. It's a very big record scratch moment for several reasons, largely the but why though factor. The scene was menacing, it felt dramatic, and then, hey, sorry to interrupt, but did you remember to feed Streaky before we left? Wait, why is your head filled with that awful sound? I'll fix it. Thank you, Omen. You're welcome. Also, did you feed Streaky? Are you seriously asking me that right now? I didn't say anything. Poor Amalek. Here he is trying his best. He's being undercut by quirky or MCU style humor. I'm not talking to you. Yes, I'm asking now. You know how he gets. Now, Power Girl was hearing a strange sound in her mind before this, and Omen was able to knock that out, but all of that is kind of undercut and lost in this Streaky discourse. And Streaky is Supergirl's cat, that being Kara's cat. Now, Karen Starr Power Girl did have a cat. It was named Stinky. Although she did also consider the name Streaky, it was one of the names in the running, like Gus and Wally. But ultimately, Stinky was what won out. Now, Williams is no stranger to enjoying a lowbrow joke here and there. No shade, sometimes you just need a good potty humor joke or an exploding boobs joke. Doing that well can be an art unto itself. So personally, I was a bit surprised that they veered away from the name Stinky. If there was ever a time, it was now. If not now, when? So Power Girl got Streaky in the special. Kara just gives her cat, cuz she says it's Streaky's idea, which does not help the non-derivative of Supergirl theme. Also, justice for Stinky. Regardless, this is just a very awkward way to break up the fight. It just cuts all the tension right out of it. And I suppose that's the answer to why it's happening. It's meant to be humorous. And if that's the case, it's gonna vary how it lands. It didn't land for me, but maybe it did for you. Now, Amalek pieces out after calling her Punch Girl after she punches him, which was amusing, and lets her know there's a bomb. Now, Power Girl panics and rushes to get the bomb and uses her astral punching ability, which is succinctly defined, which is very good for those who missed out and didn't know she had it. And also, it was clunkily defined before, so this is a very clear this is how it works definition, which is great. And she uses it to try and remove the bomb. Astral punching. Thanks to a little green rain, I can punch open portals through different locations or even dimensions. There is also an editor's note here, but it's vague. It just sends you to Lazarus Planet, but there were so many tie-ins there. I know it was Assault on Krypton, but others might not. It would be more helpful to have it be more specific, but at least it's a starting point. Now, despite Power Girl being able to punch the bomb anywhere, into space, into the void, she ends up punching it into the Marianas Trench. Something she should know would be a problem because the Atlanteans lived there, and they were even at this yacht fundraiser, and there'd been beef between them, or rather tension between them over in the Action Comics books. Space. Always throw things into space. Preferably the sun. Superman is gonna call her out over this, and when they get back to the apartment and the switch from him cuddling Streaky to looking like he's about to murder her, it's pretty amusing. He looks so angry in this panel, it's really well done. But here's where it gets a bit odd. Power Girl has been an established hero for years. They even hinted at that in the blurb, even though they only mentioned working with Superman, not explicitly her history with the JSA. So she's not some new hero who's fresh off the symbio ship, but the dynamic presented here is that she's new, green as they say. And Superman's given a disappointed dad type role, but not one that plays into any of the grief or sadness she feels from missing her relationship with the Earth 2 Superman, with whom she did sort of have that kind of relationship, which was acknowledged in the special. But she also punched her grief and trauma in the face in that. Now, despite calling her out for not punching it out into space or the sun and saying that she was irresponsible and all of those things, and she says she panicked. I panicked, I'm sorry. But that's not why Superman is here. He's here because there's a deadly human-killing virus. It's specifically targeting humans, and it's on the loose. He's looking to get ahead of it before the Blue Earth group finds out about it. Because I mean, if people learned about that, they might get a huge influx of members. At points here, Superman comes across very callous, as if he's not even really concerned about the people and more concerned about their PR.
There have been fatalities recently in the tropics, rumored to be casualties of a Kryptonian virus that uniquely affects humans.
Rumored? This just sounds like more Blue Earth conspiracy bunk.
Fortunately for us, they don't seem to be aware of it yet, but believe me, they will organize and riot once they are.
How could a virus, A, be Kryptonian, or B, uniquely affect humans anyway? None of this makes any sense.
Yes, it does. Of course it makes sense that a virus could be unique to a specific species,
or only affect a specific group of people. It even happens in humans. Paige needs to do some more research. Superman sends Paige to the Bermuda Triangle Fortress because this virus does seem to be Kryptonian in origin and seems to be originating from her Earth, which is once more of her history being called up and in play, hence rendering any incongruities all the more obvious for those who are familiar with her history. For those who aren't, this will most likely play better, or for those who are less bothered by that, or those who are just enjoying this new take on Power Girl. More grim Superman to see us out.
And if it is Kryptonian in origin, then it's up to the super family to stop it, because otherwise there's nothing to stop it from wiping out humanity.
Next time in Power Girl. Power Girl investigates the virus that isn't a virus. Oh, is it not a virus? Why am I disappointed? Amalak returns for round 2. Yay! Streaky sabotages a snack, and Omen displays questionable taste in video games. Oh, sorry, that wasn't a question. And Omen displays questionable taste in video games. That next time is so Silver Age, it did warm my heart a little bit. And that was Power Girl number 1. Okay, let's take this from a couple of angles. Let's lead off with the Power Girl in this new era angle, coming off of the special and the backups. Now, coming off of that, this is a much more standard outing for Power Girl than the psychic therapist angle. A more classic style adventure, and she fares better for it. A lot more of Power Girl's strengths are on display here. Some more of her confidence, some more of her sass. There's a concrete and interesting setup for her to tackle, and a decent villain for her to fight. Seeing her re-enter the world is fun, although some may wish that it was as Karen Starr, not as Paige Stetler. On the other hand, it feels as dismissive to some of her backups in the special as it does to her overall history, just taking what it needs and ignoring the rest, even when the story would benefit from it being brought up. It has some fun moments and the action beats shine, but there aren't many of them, and some of the jokes can be a bit generic and not feel as if they're attached to the characters who are experiencing them or telling them, like, oh, Power Girl hates her dress, or Omen can't make drinks. But there is potential for a fun little run here. Now for the overall Power Girl history view. It fares a lot worse in this department. This Power Girl is extremely at odds with her past portrayals in many ways. Her competence as a hero, her self-confidence, her relationship with Superman, and none of her past, which is at times referenced, is used to bolster these changes when it could work. Like her need to be with Superman and the Super Family, that could stem from her wanting that old relationship from her Earth and feeling lonely since she sees that they're all so close now and she's missing that. The astral punch, that moment where she ends up causing this incident with the Atlanteans because she puts it in the ocean because she's just not thinking. It doesn't make her come across the best, but there's a way to have that happen and not have her appear less competent. This astral punching ability is new. Just simply render it so that she's not fully in control of it yet. So you could have her aim for space or a void or somewhere harmless, not the void, Tanya Spears is there. No one went to get her, at least time of recording. So she can aim for any of those places, but instead it doesn't work and she ends up hitting the ocean. Same outcome, but she's less scattered, and it makes Superman coming at her and assuming she doesn't know what she was doing more unfair, and it would highlight the difference between this Superman and her Superman. And also introduce the idea that he's having a hard time separating her from Supergirl, that maybe that's why he's treating her in this way, which could also add into her insecurities about feeling like she's a lesser version of Supergirl because people aren't treating her as a separate person. Now this work is pretty tied in with Superman and the Action Comics, and it's doing that well. It feels interconnected. In general, this era of DC is really coming together, even just in little hints mentioned here or there, even in something that's trying to position itself so that it can slot in as it needs to with Wonder Woman #1. Other issues, for example, are referencing some of the things there. Just in general, the DC universe is really starting to feel a bit more entwined. And when it comes to this issue with Power Girl and the overall theme of her wanting to be part of Superman's world and his adventures, it works. It lands with what this run is trying to establish and set up. And for those portions, it tells you exactly where to go and what issues you need. So in that way, it feels like it ties together and like it's enriching the DC universe as a whole. So far, there are some interesting ideas here, but it still feels like Power Girl is looking to find a concrete direction. Maybe by the end of this first arc, she'll have found it. But those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Did you love Power Girl #1? Do you love Dr. Paige Stetler? Should we have gone with Stinky the Cat? I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me down below, and while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I'm really enjoying Dawn of DC, time of recording, just talking about it and seeing what's out there, the good, the bad, the meh, and I can't wait to see you again soon with whatever we end up talking about. Bye-bye.